Good day, everyone. Welcome back to Clean Cut EDC. Today we are doing a full review on my wife's knife. And I stole this guy a little while ago out of her bag just to test it out for myself. But we've had this knife and this knife the same amount of time, right? So I got this one about a year ago, and same goes for this knife. Now, I have to say I'm very embarrassed to be a knife enthusiast today because this is my most carried knife for 2023 and there's basically no scratches on this knife, as opposed to my wife's most carried knife for 2023. Look at this thing, man. It's been through war. I don't even know. I have no words. I mean, how does she even do that? Look at the freaking blade. This was like DLC coated or painted or something. These lines all came off, rubbing off. There's scratches, there's nicks and stuff in the handle. I'm like, what has she been using this for? Um, but I do know some of it. I know that she uses this to rob people's gardens. She will sneak up on gardens with this knife and then cut off flowers and steal people's flowers. So yeah, and she will use the serrations to cut off the branches if she wants to steal the plant. So if you are in the garden route and you are missing a few flowers or plants, then you are more than welcome to come pick them up from my house on Saturdays between 9 and 10. It's just crazy, man. Okay, let's do a full run through. We're doing everything today. We're going to do some size comparisons. We're going to do some weight testing and just do a full run through of this knife. So this is the Smith & Wesson Extreme Ops B038. Now, is it an original Smith & Wesson knife? I'm not sure. I don't know. It might be a fake. It might be a clone. I don't care. It was 120 Rand, which is basically nothing for a knife these days. So, yes. It does feature, or at least they mention, it's got 440 steel. Now, is it 440A? Is it 440B? Is it 440C? I don't know, right? It can be either one of those, or maybe none of those. But if it is 440, I'm willing to bet it's probably 440C, because in the China, with regards to China manufacturers, 440C is actually a bit more accessible these days than 440A and 440B. So it's probably 440C, which is good because that's a better steel, right? Yes, it's not a very durable steel. It came with an absolutely horrendous edge, so I had to sharpen that up on a stone a little bit, just to, give it a little bit of a more slicey edge and, just work up that edge. But it's been lasting, so I haven't sharpened it again, and it's been doing its job. It's not paper slicing sharp, but it's sharp enough to do damage and, yes, to also just do basic daily cutting tasks. So let's run through this knife. We've got a tanto shape, a drop point style tanto shape blade, which makes this a super, super epic piercing knife. We also have a reinforced tip, which at this price point is just ridiculous. So we've got this bevel here, and this bevel runs all the way to the tip, which reinforces that tip with this sort of a tri-structure we have going on. Scandi grind, but behind the edge, we don't find a flat grind. We see a hollow grind. I'm not sure if I can show that, but maybe you guys can just see that a little bit. It's actually a hollow grind. It's not a flat grind. For 120 Rand, getting a hollow grind knife, that's decent. That's very decent. Tanto, aggressive Tanto style knife. It is an American Tanto style, and we actually have a pair of serrations or set of serrations here at the back for our more saw-like cutting tasks, which she has been using actually. So that's impressive. Yes, then on the spine of the blade, we actually find, I don't think this is DLC coated. I think this is just painted. But on the spine of the knife, we actually have some very functional jumping and a little bit of a thumb ramp, which is super, super comfortable in hand and gives you fantastic control over this blade. We've got our thumb studs for both a reverse flick and a thumb flick deployment, and the action is nice and smooth. And then we also have our flipper tab, which is what my wife uses. Now, we'll talk about that in a second, but I just want to mention that the choke up on this knife is actually really good. We've got jumping here at the back on both the liners and the scales, which is amazing. I don't know how they made money on this knife, right? With the manufacturing going on here, it is just crazy. So it provides fantastic traction for your thumb, and then with the flipper tab shaped like this, you actually have a little bit of a finger choil. So you have a choke up space where you can choke up on this knife just to get more power on that blade, more control over this blade, and get the job done, right? It is quite a tactical looking knife, I have to say. It's blacked out, and yeah, seems a little bit like a war knife or something you're going to take to war or something like that. Yes, and the deployment is actually speed assisted. So Kershaw uses speed safe assisted opening. I think this basically works in the exact same way. So we've got a speed assisted knife, which is fantastic for a woman especially, right? Because sometimes they can struggle with thumb stats a little bit, or even just regular deployment with a flipper tab. So if you are going to get your wife something, make it easy on them. Just get them an assisted knife or an auto knife. It's just the best for them. So yeah, I think this is a fantastic assisted knife. Comes out flying. The lockup on the blade, rock solid. There might be like not even half a millimeter of play, but it's absolutely a super solid knife. There's no flex in the handles. It feels very, very solid in your hands. The thumb studs are also quite pronounced, and you can actually take them off if you wanted to. So you can unscrew them if you wanted to. So being so pronounced, very easily accessible to get that deployment going. Now the scales is what amazed me, right? We've actually got a T8. Let me just check. T8 pivot, pretty sure. Yes, and T6 body screws, flat screws on the body, and then a nice, just a general pivot there. The scales is what's amazing me, right? Because it's like steel covered with a rubber texture. So it's almost like, I don't know if you guys have seen the loading bed of a pickup truck or a bakkie. In South Africa, we call them a bakkie, like a truck. So usually they've got like a rubberized texture to it, and it's the same thing going on here with these scales, just to protect the scales and to add some more grip and enhance the comfort. We've got some contours there, very nicely shaped for your hand. Now what I found is just ridiculous, once again at this price point, is the way this knife sits in your hand when you're in the choked up position. So thumb on the jumping, you actually have jumping here at the butt of the knife, and when this sits in your hand, you just have so much comfort and control over this knife. The pocket clip, unfortunately, is only tipped down, tipped down right hand side carry. So you can't switch that over, and you can't do tip up or anything like that. That's the way it is, and that's how it's going to be. And then we have a nice-ish pocket clip. It's been lasting, but it's not that thick. It's not that durable. It's just a basic pocket clip. It's also not a deep carry pocket clip. It has a high ride pocket clip. So easily accessible, which is nice for this tactical style knife, but not so great when you want to conceal your knife. Then I do not know what this slot is for at all. I have no idea why there's that slot. It's got a plate, or it's got the liners covering it, so it's not a lanyard tool. But you actually do have a lanyard tool if you want to put a lanyard on this knife, which is cool. Nice texture on the scales as well, milled out sections, and it definitely increases your grip. But this is so comfortable in hand. There is just nothing in the way, no hot spots. Maybe a little bit here at the tip of the pocket clip, but not really that it's going to bother you at all. Okay, the liner is not skeletonized on the liner lock side, but it is actually skeletonized on the show side of the liners. And then our lockup is dead on. Let's check just the centering of this knife. It's a little bit to the right, to the show side. But yeah, we can always fix that later on, but that's not the biggest problem. So yeah, overall, just fantastic. Let's do some size comparisons. Here it is against the Akal, which is my EDC, and just by looking at it, they are basically the exact same size. Here it is against the Spyderco PM2, and the PM2 is about half a centimeter longer than our Smith & Wesson fake. I don't know, maybe it's an original, I don't know. Kaiser original, talking about originals, way smaller than this knife. The Pickled Steel Ghost, epic blacked out knife. And yeah, Ghost is a little bit smaller than our Smith & Wesson. Let's try the Delica. The Delica is also coming in quite a lot smaller than my wife's knife. And then the very iconic QSP Penguin in denim micarta. and also about 2 or 1.5 centimeters smaller. So it is definitely a good full-size knife. Get a full 4-finger grip on there. Can even choke up still, fingers not hanging on the edge. It's perfect. It's a good full-size knife. Now, I don't like serrations on a knife. I feel it's a waste of blade. If I want serrations or to saw something, I'll just use a saw, right, or a Leverman or something. Let's do a weight test. So we actually got a new scale here today, and let's see how this guy is working out. Yes, 152 grams. So compared to my EDC, 120. So her knife is even heavier than mine, but with these sort of aluminium rubber covered scales, I can only imagine that, right? This is a proper knife. We've got about a 3 millimeter blade thickness, maybe 2.5. Yeah, I think maybe 2.5 millimeters. So it's a decent sized blade. Guys, that's gonna be it for today. This is my wife's knife. She likes it. Check it out. They're available on Takealot for just a ridiculous price. Even if it's just a truck knife or a knife that you leave in your car or in your toolbox or whatever, just something that you don't even care about, that can be a beater. The thing has withstand some trauma. I can only imagine what it has seen in her handbag, but it's a good knife for an amazing price. I think for the price that this is probably what I would recommend for someone saying they want a knife under 200 Rand. I would say go for this. This is going to be the best you can get. So yes, guys, awesome. Have a good day. Have a nice day. And remember that no knife means no life.